Lightning split the summer night over Myrrhvale, electrifying the shattered spire on the hill. Rain hammered rooftops, flooding the winding streets with silvery currents. By dawn, a crowd gathered beneath the tower, whispering legends into the mist. All eyes were drawn skyward, to the single, impossible glow atop the spire. It was a lantern, swaying in the wind, its glass inscribed with runes that pulsed in colors no one could name. Lira pressed through the crowd, her cloak heavy with rain, heart heavy with longing. The world always seemed one secret ahead of her. If only she could know what her master kept hidden, or why, after years as an apprentice, she still tripped over simple spells. But today would be different. As the city guard debated who would dare climb, Lira slipped around the edge and found a broken stairway winding up the inside. Halfway up, the stones shuddered. Thunder rolled. Lira hugged the crumbling rail, whispering, "Just a little farther. I can do this." Above, the lantern's glow beckoned. She reached the broken platform, breathing hard. Up close, the lantern's glass flickered with ghostly images, trees, swirling stars, faces she almost recognized. Figuring it would be locked, she braced herself, but the handle turned warm beneath her hand. The lantern flared, blinding her. Shapes danced in the light, spirits, cloaked in silver mist, stretching out ghostly fingers toward her. Voices echoed, not spoken aloud, but curling behind Lira's eyes. "The Feywind calls. Restore the balance. Seek the heart." She nearly dropped the lantern. "What? Who are you?" Her voice trembled. A spirit's whisper, a mix of sorrow and hope, brushed against her cheek. "You will find us beyond the breathing woods, but beware, the shadows know you now." Back below, the city's voices grew nervous. Guards pounded on the stairwell. Lira clutched the lantern. Its strange light pulsed in time with her heartbeat. A furry shape darted from the brush, a russet fox, its tail tipped in white fire, staring right at her. "You need to move," said a sharp, trembling voice beside her. It was Beck, the outcast scholar, hair wild, spectacles fogged with rain. He eyed the lantern with desperate awe. "That thing you've got, it's drawing attention, not just from the living. Come with me." Behind them, iron boots clanged on stone. Lira hesitated, fear and curiosity warring inside her. She glanced at the fox, whose emerald stare glimmered with urgency. "This way if you want to live," Beck whispered. The fox yipped, already bounding down a hidden side stair. Lira swallowed her doubts. She dashed after them, clutching the glowing lantern tight as the true adventure began. The shadows of men and something far older were waking, and Lira now held the key. Blue dawn seeped through the tangled alleys as Lira followed Beck and the fox, her soaked boots splashing through puddles. The lantern emitted a muted but steady glow, drawing nervous glances from those few Myrrhvalians awake at this hour. They wove through crooked lanes, Beck grumbling as he ducked under laundry lines and nearly tumbled over a set of barrels. Lira darted after him, clutching the lantern to her chest. They ducked under an arch of twisted yew branches into the misty confines of Beck's makeshift home, a forgotten scholar's nook cluttered with maps, candles, and a haphazard pile of arcane scrolls. The fox slipped in, shook off the rain with a shiver, and settled in a shadowy corner, his emerald eyes now shimmering golden in the lantern's light. Lira set the lantern between them on an old oaken table. "Do you know what this is?" she asked, her voice hushed. Beck wiped his glasses. "I know what the fables say." He rustled through a yellowed tome pointing to a drawing, a lantern surrounded by 6 figures, each crowned with antlers and shadow. "The guardians of Myrrhvale. They kept the old magic sleeping, for everyone's sake. No one's seen their lantern in centuries." Lira's chest tightened. "The spirits, they spoke to me. They want me to go to the woods. Feywind Woods." Beck's finger trembled over a map. "That's bad. No one comes back the same. Magic stirs there. Wild, hungry magic. But if the guardians chose you," a sudden rapping cut him off. City guards' voices boomed outside. "Open up, in the name of Myrrhvale." The fox leapt onto the table, tail blazing briefly with ethereal fire. An odd voice filled the room, not quite human, not quite beast. "We must go. The lantern's light is a beacon for friends and foes." Lyra stiffened. "Did you just speak?" The fox grinned, sharp and sly. "Names later. Choices now. Through the back. Quickly." An unspoken trust snapped them into motion. Beck stuffed his satchel, grabbing his best map of Feywind. Lira wrapped the lantern in her cloak. The fox nosed a loose stone, revealing a passage scrawled with old runes. A memory flickered, her master's warning, never trust what walks between light and shadow. But the spectral voices still fluttered in her mind, urging her onward. The guards crashed through the door as they slipped into darkness, Lira breathing hard, lantern warm and oddly alive beneath her arm. Beck led the way into a root-laced tunnel, the fox's tail glowing just enough to show the path. Behind them, footfalls faded, the city slipped away. Ahead, the world of legends loomed, the heart of Feywind Woods, where reality bent and fate waited. Lyra's doubts gnawed at her, but she pressed on to answers, to danger, and perhaps, finally, to the magic she'd always been denied. The tunnel coughed them into the wild. The old city walls of Myrrhvale loomed silent behind them in the first pale light, but every breath Lira drew smelled greener, sharper, a world waking on the edge of legend. Dew-laden ferns kissed her boots. The lantern, even hidden in cloth, glowed like a heartbeat as they pressed deeper into the tangle of Feywind Woods. Beck was tense, eyes darting over every root and thorn. He held close to Lira and the fox, muttering, "Stick to the trail if you can ever tell where it is. Nothing in here likes strangers." Lira glanced at the fox, curiosity flickering. She couldn't ignore how he'd spoken or the way he moved, more like a shadow than a true animal. What's your name? What are you?" He grinned without showing teeth. "Call me Ash. Magic runs thick here. Foxes learn old tricks. Some say I owe the woods a favor. Or maybe it owes me." Beck shoved through a thicket, voice cracking. "Less talking, more watching. Something's following." Lira held the lantern tighter, its power thrumming up her arm. The path twisted around mossy trunks wider than 10 men. Mist clung low, swirling shapes that sometimes whispered, sometimes hissed. She shivered. "Beck, what's supposed to happen next?" "Legend says the first test is always the hardest," he replied, eyes wary. "The forest has its own laws. Don't pick up anything. Don't answer if your name is called. Hold the lantern high if the road goes dark." The words had barely left his mouth when the mist thickened, swallowing color and light. Branches twisted, longing hands. All sound hushed except the steady beat of Lyra's heart. And a second rhythm, heavy and deep, echoing hers. A giant shadow loomed. Something stepped through the fog, a shape like a bear, but with antlers dripping beads of gold and eyes glowing emerald. It blocked their way, rumbling. Who bears the light of guardians? Who calls old magic from slumber? Fear clawed her throat. Ash stepped forward, tail aflame. "We are pilgrims. Let us pass." The bear guardian ignored him, eyes locked on Lira. The one who holds the lantern must answer. Lira nearly crumpled. She felt so small. A girl with a secret, running from a world that never wanted her. But she stood her ground. "I lit it by accident, but I want to help." The voices spoke of balance and shadows waking. "I want to learn why." Silence. Then the guardian bowed its mighty head. "Many come, few speak truth. Prove your heart against the shadow at the bridge. Succeed and you may go on. Fail and the woods will keep you." The mist parted to reveal a crook-backed bridge arcing over a black stream. Shadows swirled beneath, darker and hungrier than night. Beck's voice was a tremor. "Only one may cross, and the shadow takes form from your fear." Lyra's hands shook. Ash nuzzled her knee, whispering, "Go, you're braver than you know." Lantern in hand, Lira stepped onto the bridge. Ancient wood groaned. The darkness below shifted, eyes opening. Her real trial had finally begun. Lira clutched the lantern tight as she stepped onto the creaking bridge. Each board seemed to groan a warning. Shadow drifted up from the black stream below, swirling around her boots, cold as regret. The air grew thick, and even the familiar glow of the lantern flickered uncertainly. "Don't look down," Beck called from the fog-laced bank. "Just focus ahead." Easy for him to say, Lira thought. But she looked forward, heart hammering, forcing her feet to move. Halfway across, the mist coiled into a shape. A girl, no older than Lira, face gaunt and eyes wild with tears. "You broke it," the shadow girl whispered, voice twisting with pain. "You let everyone down. You'll never be enough." Lira froze, words cutting deeper than any blade. Old doubts pressed in, failed incantations, disappointed glances from her master, her inability to fit anywhere. Trembling, she whispered, "You're not real. You're just fear." The shadow swelled, arms outstretched, pleading. "If you try, you'll only fail again. You don't belong here." Lira staggered, but Ash's voice, crisp as autumn air, echoed from the fog. "Hold up the lantern. Light beats shadow." She raised the lantern, letting its glow spill over the shadow girl. The runes on its glass shimmered hot against her palm. Warmth surged in her chest. Years of small triumphs, Beck's loyal friendship, the daring hope that maybe she could change her fate. "Everyone is afraid," she said, voice growing stronger. "But fear isn't all I am. I'm still here. I choose to keep walking." The shadow girl faltered, then dissolved into drifting motes of light. The mist shivered and drew back from the bridge, as if bowing to her defiance. Lira hurried across the final board, stumbling into Beck's waiting arms on the other side. Behind her, the bridge faded into moonlit fog, as if it had never existed. The guardian bear's antlered form reappeared, eyes softer now. "Few cross their own shadows and stand unbroken," it rumbled. "You may go deeper, but be wary, the lantern draws more than just guardians." Ash winked at Lira, flicking his blazing tail with approval. "Told you, even the woods think you're special." Beck clapped her shoulder, pride and relief mixed on his face. "I've studied Feywind my whole life and never seen the bridge let anyone return. Come on, let's find the heart of the forest before other seekers catch our trail." With the warm lantern in hand and her fear battered but not broken, Lira pressed on, her companions close and the secrets of Feywind growing ever deeper and darker on every side. Dawn was little more than a greenish glow beneath Feywind's dense boughs. The trio wandered deeper, guided only by the lantern's pulse humming in Lira's grip. Strange flowers bent toward her as they passed, some dissolving into mist, others whispering secrets only the forest understood. Beck pored over his spine-cracked map, frowning. The guardian's heart should be close, a clearing marked by giant stags and living stone. He studied Lira's face, worry lining his own. "That test on the bridge, I hope you're all right." Lira's answer was steady. "I won't run from myself again. Not now." Ahead, Ash halted, hackles bristling. His nose twitched. "We're being watched, and it's not the forest this time." A whisper of metal slipped through the brush. In moments, 4 figures clad in tarnished armor stepped into the path. Their leader, a woman with a jagged scar across her jaw, leveled a sword at Beck and Lira. Her voice was cold, practiced. "You have something dangerous. Give it here." Beck edged in front of Lira. "We're only trying to restore balance. The Guardians." She cut him off. "Guardian fairy tales didn't protect us when the last storm ripped families apart. That lantern's the source of it. Hand it over. Now." Lira's grip tightened on the lantern. She shook her head. "This isn't yours to claim." A tense standoff crackled in the air. Ash's fur bristled, fire flickering at his tail. Beck's knees knocked. Even the birds seemed to pause. Then the scarred woman glanced at Ash and sneered. "A little fox? That's your secret weapon?" Ash leapt between the soldiers and his friends, tail blazing. "You should worry less about foxes and more about what you woke." Suddenly, the ground trembled. Vines whipped upward, alive with a mind of their own. The soldiers cursed, swords slashing through thick green. The lantern in Lira's hand throbbed with heat and light, answering the threat. Figures of mist and moonlight, spirits, surged through the trees, scattering the interlopers with howling wind. The scarred leader locked eyes with Lira as she was swept away by vines. "You don't know what you're unleashing." When quiet returned, Lira staggered, breathless. Beck's hand shook as he steadied her. Ash licked his paw with studied calm, but Lira saw his heart racing. "Thank you," Lira whispered to the spirits, barely audible. The woods, for that moment, almost seemed to smile. Ash eyed the battered group. "No more delays. We must reach the clearing before rivals return. Lantern-bearer, lead on." Despite the chaos, Lira felt something change inside. She was done hiding, from herself, her powers, or anyone. Lantern raised, she guided her friends onward, into the wild heart of Feywind, where legend and danger waited to test her strength once more. Sunlight pierced the leafy canopy, painting gold coins on green moss as Lira, Beck, and Ash finally stumbled into the ancient clearing. It was just as the scholar's map promised, a ring marked by towering stag statues, their stone eyes watching beneath wreaths of pale lichen. At the center rose a pedestal carved from gleaming crystal, etched with guardian runes. Lira's heart pounded. The lantern glowed brighter, lighting every rune, every chiseled beast in the clearing. The spirits, now more defined than before, circled around them, whispering with longing voices. Ash looked to Lira. "This is it. The heart of Feywind. If you want to wake the magic or restore balance, it must be here." Beck cleared his throat, nerves fluttering. "Legend says there is a ritual, a test of will before the Guardians reveal themselves. And failure means..." Lira managed a shaky smile. No pressure, then? She stepped to the pedestal, the runes on the lantern aligning with those on the ancient stone. The glowing spirit swept close, knitting memories and hopes into the air. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Speak your intent, a spirit whispered, voice both kind and severe. Do you seek power, vengeance, or healing? Lira looked at Beck, then at Ash, then up at the pale sky. I want healing, for this valley and for myself. I want to know the truth. I want to belong. I want the shadows to sleep again. The pedestal pulsed, surrounding her in a cylinder of light. The statues creaked as if waking from stone slumber, antlers rising, eyes flickering with life. The spirits' voices twined together. To heal, you must surrender what you fear most. Dare you name it? Lyra's breath caught. Memories of loneliness stung. Her master's disappointment, the sneers of other apprentices, her fear that she would never be enough. I fear being forgotten, failing everyone, fading into nothing. Ash's tail brushed her hand, steadying her. Beck nodded reassuringly. The forest responded. Trees leaned closer, branches glowing. The antlered statues chanted with deep, resonant voices. Then hold the lantern high and step into the light. Only one with a true heart can shape the fate of Feywind. Lira lifted the lantern. Light poured out, pure, blinding, all-consuming. Pain and hope mixed inside her chest as shadows boiled up, meeting the radiance head-on. For a moment, she saw herself reflected in every rune, every spirit, every friend's hopeful face, and she didn't look away. When the radiance faded, she was kneeling, the lantern dark for the first time since she'd found it. The clearing was eerily silent. Beck and Ash rushed to her side. Ash whispered urgently, Lira, did it work? A low thrumming began in the ground. Antlers shimmered. Ancient eyes opened wide. In the silence, Lira realized she'd become the heart of Feywind's hope, and the ancient guardians were at last awakening. But as wind howled beyond the clearing, one truth became clear. Something dark had also heard the lantern's call, and it was coming for them. Thunder rumbled overhead, shaking the ancient trees. Lira regained her feet, the lantern still dark and heavy in her hand. Beck helped her up, eyes wide with awe and fear. Encircling them, the guardian statue's antlers blazed with spectral light, no longer stone but woven with living magic. The spirits, no longer misty but clear as the stories carved into Myrrhvale's oldest walls, bowed their heads toward Lira. You have awoken our trust, intoned their leader, its voice 1,000 creaking trees. But Feywind's wounds run deep. Shadows, once banished, now stir with fury. Suddenly the clearing chilled. From the perimeter, darkness oozed between trunks. It was more than the rival seekers. It was the old enemy of this land, an echo of ancient power with no shape but every shape at once. It's here, Ash hissed, fur standing on end, gold fire rippling along his tail. The hunger the lantern sealed away. Lira tried to muster courage. What do? We stand with you, Beck declared, his voice quaking but resolute. Myrrhvale belongs to all of us, not the shadow. The dark poured in, forming into a massive horned beast with splintered eyes and a roar that shook the living stones. Its voice was cold wind. Little thief, you have my light. Give it back and I'll let this wood rot in peace. The lantern in Lyra's hands flickered, a single dim spark. The spirits drew close, hands on her shoulders, channeling echoes of warmth. Lira called out, This light isn't just yours anymore. It belongs to everyone. Guardian, spirit, even the outcasts. Feywind needs hope, not fear. Anger boiled in the shadow, lashing out with tongues of chilling darkness. Beck threw up a fragile ward. Ash darted and weaved, spitting foxfire that sliced the gloom. Still, the great horned beast pressed close, its eyes drilling into Lyra's doubts. She fought to remember her journey, her first fear on the bridge, Beck's loyalty when none believed him, Ash's shimmering courage, the spirit's stories in every whirl of wind. Gathering those threads in every shard of self-belief she had forged, she pressed the lantern to her chest and whispered, I am not nothing, I am not alone, and I will give you nothing but light. The spark inside the lantern brightened, defying the darkness. The ancient antlered guardians stepped forward, joining their magic to hers. Light streamed from the lantern, cutting through shadow, but the beast only laughed, unfurling greater coils of midnight. Ash's voice cut the chaos. Lira, it can't be destroyed. Seal it. Balance, like the guardians showed you. As the beast lunged, Lira realized. Her journey was giving her the answer. With her friends at her side and the Guardian's wisdom in her heart, she steeled herself for a greater test, the sealing of an ancient evil and the restoration of balance. Not victory alone. Lira's breath steamed in the suddenly frigid air. The horned shadow beast pressed against the barrier of guardian light, shapeless heft testing every crack. Spirits flickered, antlered guardians chanted, but even Beck's trembling wards showed signs of strain. Despair threatened, but Lira forced herself to focus. Ash's words echoing, not destruction, but balance. We need both, she realized aloud. Without shadow, there's no light. Feywind can't heal if we just push the darkness away. Beck blinked, sweat beading on his brow. How? It's older than any spell I know. Ash's golden eyes met Lira's. Call to everything you are. Invite shadow and light. Let them meet in you. The horned beast gnashed spectral teeth. You are too small, lantern-bearer. Your fear is my feast. Lira stepped to the heart of the clearing, lantern trembling with its first embers. She remembered her loneliest nights, her failures, her secret wish to belong, and her stubborn refusal to give up. She raised the lantern overhead. I accept you. I accept my fears in this darkness, but you will not control us anymore. A hush fell. The lantern blazed gold and deepest indigo at once, threads of shadow curling around the light. Instead of fighting, Lira let herself feel the sadness, the anger, the hope. She pictured the bridge, her friends, the city needing healing. She whispered, we all need something. Light, shadow, forgiveness. I won't shut any part away. The horned beast wavered. Its howl twisted with longing and pain, but it could not pass the threshold set by Lira's calm acceptance. The spirits gathered tighter, their chanting synchronizing with the heartbeat in Lira's chest. Beck, watching her, found his courage. He added his trembling voice, all this time, I thought I was wrong for being different, for chasing old stories. But we're strongest when we stand together, flaws and all. Ash circled Lira and Beck, his foxfire flickering blue and white. Old magic remembers pain, but kindness and courage are magic too. That's what the woods and the shadows forgot. That's what you remind them. Light and shadow danced in the lantern. The clearing erupted in winds, as if Feywind itself were exhaling centuries of pain and secrets. The beast's form shrank, drawn into the lantern's glow, not trapped but held, in balance. Exhausted, Lira dropped to her knees. Beck knelt beside her, ash curling protectively around them both. The spirits watched, silent and solemn. Above, the guardian statues inclined their heads. Their leader whispered, you have done what none have dared, mended the wound, accepted the night, and given the valley hope. But the task isn't over. The lantern's power is changing. Its purpose may call you beyond Feywind. Lira looked to her friends, fear replaced by something steadier. She'd passed the test, but the journey of healing in herself and the world had only begun. And somewhere, beyond the deepest trees, fate was watching, waiting for their next choice. The morning after the sealing brought a hush to Feywind Woods none could remember, a peace as profound as the storms had been wild. Lira sat amidst new wildflowers, the lantern cradled in her lap, swirling now with delicate threads of light and shadow, each balancing the other. Beck watched her with wonder, scribbling notes almost as often as he glanced up at the awakening forest. Ash lay beside them, tail softly aglow, eyes half shut but always watchful. The spirits, more solid than ever, walked the clearing with the living. The antlered guardians' voices were gentler now. You have done what our kind never could, lantern-bearer. Feywind will not forget. Lira touched the lantern, feeling its pulse echoing steady and strong inside her chest. What about Myrrhvale? The city still aches. Healing Feywind is one step, but the storms, the hurt, will come back if the people outside remain unchanged. Beck nodded, his excitement tempered with resolve. We could teach them what we learned here, about acceptance, forgiveness, about light needing darkness. But will they listen? Ash stretched, golden fur catching the broken sunlight. Change was never the lantern's job. That's yours now, Lira. Yours and anyone brave enough to follow. Suddenly an urgent rustle echoed from the forest verge. The scarred woman, leader of the rival seekers, emerged, battered and alone, her eyes raw and searching. She hesitated, but Lira beckoned her forward. The woman dropped her blade and knelt. You tamed it. You restored what we all lost. But my people, outside these woods, they won't believe magic can heal. They see only power or danger. Beck approached, voice gentle. Maybe that's what's next. Not more fighting, but showing a new way. Feywind's story could be the start, if brave souls like you help us spread it. The woman considered, then nodded. I want to try. It's what my sister would have wanted. Lira saw her shaken reflection in the woman's armor, no longer a frightened apprentice, but a lantern-bearer holding both hope and uncertainty. Then we start with us. The woods healed, the city can learn, not fast, but step by step. Ash perked, ears twitching. Darkness will test you, even now. The lantern's magic draws other watchers, curious and cunning. You'll need each other more than ever. A distant horn pealed, a call from Myrrhvale's walls. All eyes turned. Change was stirring in the valley beyond the trees. The group packed the lantern and what supplies they could carry, ready to lead both friend and former foe on a new journey, into a city uncertain, but full of fragile hope. As they set out, Lira whispered to the lantern, one more test, I suppose, but I'm not alone anymore. The lantern's glow, balanced and bright, promised a fate still unwritten, one for the whole world to witness, if only it was ready to listen. The path back to Myrrhvale wound through sunlight and mist. Each step Lira took carried not just herself, but hope for two worlds, one of spirit and shadow, one of stone and doubt. Beside her walked Beck and Ash, and behind them the scarred woman, her blade sheathed in trust. Spirits drifted at the forest's edge, their forms flickering in farewell, blessing each pilgrim who crossed the threshold. At the city gates, curious guards met them, no longer hostile, but wary and unable to hide their awe at the transformed lantern in Lira's hand. Its crystal now shimmered with both day and dusk, a living emblem of what Feywind and its shadows had become. The news of their return raced ahead, drawing crowds to the square, gathering skeptics and believers alike. A hush fell as Lira climbed the steps of the old council dais, the lantern casting gentle patterns across the weathered stones. Her hands still trembled, but with steady purpose. Beck and the scarred woman flanked her, Ash at her heels. Lira lifted the lantern, voice clear. Magic divided us once, spirit and city, shadow and light, but I learned in Feywind that neither fear nor power alone can heal. What brought peace was facing darkness and welcoming it as part of us. Light alone is empty. So is shadow. Hope, like healing, balances both. The scarred woman stepped forward. For the first time, her voice didn't shake. I once believed magic was a weapon, or a curse. I was wrong. It can be a bridge. Beck addressed the crowd. Change is hard, but no wall, no rule will save us if we don't first trust ourselves and each other. The stories you feared, let them remind you to listen, to stand together. Debate rippled through the crowd. Anger, then uncertainty, and finally softening. An elder nodded, a child stepped forward to touch the lantern's glow. A city's wounds would take longer to heal than any forest's, but as the lantern shone in the hands of the willing and the hesitant alike, a tremor of hope spread. By dusk, Myrrhvale's bells pealed in gentle tones. Lira and her friends watched from the edge of the old spire. Ash lounged on the warm stones, tail flickering lazily. Beck smiled, eyes full of new dreams. The scarred woman looked to Lira, eyes no longer haunted, but bright with resolve. Ash spoke first. You lit a path nobody thought could be walked. But be ready, this is only the beginning. The lantern's light will change as you do. That is its real magic. Lira nodded, feeling gratitude for every step, every fear, and every friend. If darkness comes again, I'll remember, I am not nothing, and I am not alone. Above them, the lantern burned with light and shadow, bright enough to guide all who sought balance, even beyond the lands they called home. And so, the Lantern of Feywind's story closed not with an ending, but with a promise, a new dawn for Myrrhvale, and for all who carry hope through the heart of shadow.